We start with a guy named Rick running after his school bus. Yep, he's already super late. Somehow the bus stops, and Rick jumps inside, completely out of breath. But there's a problem. Nobody wants him to sit with them. Rick isn't exactly popular, and honestly, that's been the story of his life. So he ends up sitting next to his only friend, Trey. While they're riding, Rick notices a girl on the bus, Jill. And yeah, Rick has a huge crush on her. He keeps staring at her, completely lost. But Trey quickly warns him, dude, Jill is way out of your league. Still, Rick can't stop looking. He's already fallen for her. Soon, the students arrive at an animal research center, where they're supposed to see rare animals. Rick sees this as the perfect chance to impress Jill. He walks up to her and claims he's an amazing photographer and wants to take some cool pictures of her. But there's just one problem. Photography is strictly forbidden in the lab. Does Rick care? Of course not. He snaps a picture anyway. The camera flash hits a nearby bird, and suddenly the poor bird catches fire. No one knows Rick caused it. Panicking, Rick tries to put the fire out, but things only get worse. He stomps on the bird to stop the flames, and the burning bird flies straight onto Lawrence, Jill's boyfriend. Lawrence instantly loses his mind and rushes toward Rick to beat him up. But right then, Uncle Lou arrives. He's one of the investors in the research center. Lou asks Rick about his parents. Turns out, he actually knew Rick's father. Rick quietly explains that his parents passed away years ago, and now he lives with his aunt and uncle. Lou feels sorry for him and walks away silently. But the moment Lou leaves, Lawrence starts bullying Rick again. He shoves Rick straight into a giant pile of animal poop. Yeah, it's as disgusting as it sounds. Rick is completely covered in it and totally humiliated. Trying to clean himself, Rick grabs a nearby container and pours the liquid on himself, thinking it's water. But it's not. It's a chemical used to attract male animals. Within seconds, a bunch of male animals start charging toward him, and they all start climbing on Rick. Everyone around bursts into laughter. Rick is humiliated once again. In the chaos, a dragonfly suddenly bites Rick, but he doesn't even notice it because he's already surrounded by animals. Soon, even more animals start gathering around him. People are confused. Why are all the animals attracted to Rick? And the worst part, his best friend Trey isn't helping him. He's recording the whole thing on his phone, planning to upload it to YouTube and make money from Rick's embarrassment. Later, everyone returns home. Rick looks completely exhausted and weak. He gets home where his aunt and uncle are waiting. His uncle asks him to feed the fish, but Rick feels so sick, he runs to the fish tank and throws up inside it. At this point, Rick is totally broken, so he walks to his room, collapses on the bed, and instantly falls into a deep sleep. After this, we see Uncle Lou inside a laboratory with a group of doctors. Here we learn that Uncle Lou is suffering from a deadly disease, and according to doctors, he doesn't have much time left. However, Uncle Lou has been secretly working with one scientist on a special machine that could cure him. They have spent many years building this machine. Uncle Lou orders the scientist to turn it on, but the doctor warns him that the machine is still incomplete and not safe to activate yet. Uncle Lou refuses to listen and forces him to start the machine, and moments later it is activated. Suddenly a huge blast occurs. Everyone in the lab starts laughing, believing the machine has failed. Another scientist even begins mocking Uncle Lou, but then something terrifying happens. While still sitting inside the machine, Uncle Lou grabs the scientist's hand and drains all of his energy. The scientist dies instantly. That's when Uncle Lou realizes the truth. The machine actually works. He understands that as long as he keeps absorbing human energy, his disease will never kill him. Meanwhile, Rick is still asleep at home. That same day, Rick's school is hosting its annual function, and the chief guest is Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking gives an inspirational speech to the students. He talks about how, despite being physically disabled, he never gave up on life and remained motivated. While everyone listens carefully, Rick is still focused on trying to impress Jill. During this, Rick accidentally bumps into Lawrence, making him angry once again. Suddenly, Rick's hand gets stuck inside a sink, and he can't pull it out. The sink breaks off and falls straight onto Lawrence. Enraged, Lawrence charges at Rick to beat him up. Rick starts running to save himself. In the chaos, he crashes into a heavy man, and Rick's hands stick to the man's body. Rick struggles, but he can't pull his hands away. Finally, Rick manages to separate himself, but along with his hands, the man's clothes also come off. Everyone standing there is completely shocked. No one understands how Rick is doing these impossible things. Rick runs outside the school, confused and scared. He starts wondering if he has somehow gained superpowers. To test it, Rick tries climbing a nearby building using just his hands. To his shock, he successfully sticks to the wall and climbs effortlessly. That's when Rick finally realizes he has developed supernatural abilities. Suddenly, Rick notices a woman walking her dog nearby. At the same time, a truck comes speeding toward her. The driver loses control and can't brake. Just before the accident, Rick jumps forward and pushes the woman away, but Rick himself gets hit by the truck. Everyone watches in horror, but when the dust settles, Rick is completely unharmed. Not a single scratch is on his body. The crowd is stunned. The truck, however, is completely destroyed. But then Rick turns around and sees something horrifying. Because of Rick's push, the woman has fallen into a wood-cutting machine, and she dies instantly. Rick stands frozen in shock. After this, Rick reaches home and tells his aunt and uncle that he has developed superpowers, which he believes came from a dragonfly bite. To test him, Rick's uncle suddenly attacks him with a knife, but as the knife hits Rick's body, it bends instantly and doesn't hurt him at all. That's when his uncle finally realizes Rick truly has special powers. We are then shown Rick's past. Rick and his parents are returning home after watching a show. Suddenly, a group of robbers tries to attack them. Rick jumps in to protect his parents, but in the chaos, he accidentally kills them with his own hands. Before dying, Rick's father gives him a ring. Rick still has that ring. Rick angrily throws the ring away, but somehow the ring comes right back to him. Just then, Jill arrives. She tells Rick that she is not happy with Lawrence and wants to date Rick instead, but Rick completely misunderstands what she's trying to say. Suddenly, Lawrence shows up in his brand new sports car. Jill tells Rick that she wishes Rick also had a sports car so they could go on a long drive together. Then she leaves with Lawrence. Rick looks at his broken bicycle and realizes he could never afford a sports car like that. Back at home, Rick starts searching online and learns about a professor who runs a special school, a school only for kids with superpowers. Rick decides to meet this professor to find out how powerful he really is. The next day, Rick decides to take a bank loan to buy a sports car. He goes to the bank with his aunt and uncle. Suddenly, robbers enter the bank and try to steal money. Rick manages to escape with his aunt, but strangely, the robbers are unable to open the bank doors to get out. Instead of stopping them, Rick helps the robbers escape. Outside the bank, Rick notices a crowd. In the middle of it, a small monkey is performing tricks. Suddenly, Rick hears his uncle screaming in pain. Rick rushes to him and realizes his uncle's condition is very serious. A medical team arrives and takes his uncle to the hospital. Meanwhile, we see Uncle Lou sitting alone in his office, admiring his body. Soon, his assistant enters the room. Moments later, Uncle Lou suddenly feels weak. He grabs the assistant's hand and drains her life energy, killing her instantly. Once again, Uncle Lou becomes powerful. He hides the assistant's dead body inside a cabinet. Rick visits his uncle at the hospital. After that, he decides to finally meet Professor Xavier. Professor Xavier takes Rick to a special school meant for kids just like him, kids with superpowers. There, Rick sees many children and adults who look normal, but each of them has some strange ability. They are different from ordinary people, almost like real superheroes. Professor Xavier then introduces Rick to his wife. Mrs. Xavier appears holding what looks like a toy doll in her hands. But suddenly, that doll, who is actually their son, raises his hands and throws Professor Xavier across the room. Mrs. Xavier is clearly furious. She scolds Rick because it's his first day at the school and he still hasn't chosen his superhero costume. She orders Rick to pick one immediately. After this, Rick designs his own superhero costume. It's a green-colored suit with a dragonfly logo on it because Rick knows his powers came from that dragonfly bite. Wearing the costume for the first time, Rick climbs up to the rooftop. Suddenly, another superhero appears. Someone wearing a costume very similar to Rick's. That superhero tells Rick that this rooftop is his spot, and he usually sits there. Rick calmly replies that they can both share the place, and the moment turns awkwardly funny. The next morning, Rick goes to an office for a job interview, hoping to earn some money. During the interview, Rick proudly shows the HR manager the photos he took while wearing his superhero costume, trying to impress him. But instead of being impressed, the HR manager rejects Rick. Suddenly, a man rushes into the office and announces that a university is under attack. Rick immediately realizes that the university being attacked is his own university. Without saying anything, Rick suddenly disappears from the office. The scene shifts to the university, where we see Uncle Lou, now fully transformed into a supervillain, wearing a silver suit. Uncle Lou's plan is horrifying. He wants to drain the blood of young people at the university and turn it into a powerful serum. Just as he begins his attack, Rick arrives wearing his superhero costume. Rick finally faces Uncle Lou, hero versus villain. A fierce fight breaks out between them. Uncle Lou throws sharp blades at Rick, but they do nothing. Rick's costume turns out to be extremely strong, protecting him from every attack. Slowly, Uncle Lou realizes that he can't defeat Rick in this fight. With no other option, the supervillain escapes. Jill is also present at the scene. She is clearly impressed, but not by Rick. She is impressed by the superhero inside the costume, without knowing that it's actually Rick himself. That night, we see Jill leaving a theater. Rick secretly follows her and tries to talk to her, but Rick is extremely shy and nervous. Jill starts the conversation herself and tells Rick that she wanted him to take her on a date. Rick becomes so shy that he can't even respond properly. Annoyed and disappointed, Jill walks away, still unaware that Rick is the same superhero she admired earlier. Moments later, a group of thugs begins following Jill. Just in time, Rick appears again, this time as the Dragonfly superhero. He easily defeats the goons. Jill is overjoyed after being saved and thanks the Dragonfly superhero, once again not realizing that he is Rick. Later, we see Uncle Lou back in his lab, analyzing his machine. He makes a terrifying discovery. If he drains the life energy of 47,000 people using his machine, he will never die. He will become immortal. With this realization, Uncle Lou decides to kill 47,000 people to achieve eternal life. After this, we see Rick's aunt, who has invited Jill over for dinner. During the dinner, Jill tells Rick's aunt that she really likes the Dragonfly superhero because he has saved her life twice. She even feels like she might be falling for him. Just then, Lawrence arrives with his uncle, Uncle Lou. At the same time, we see Rick somehow sneaking into his room while still wearing his superhero costume. Before Rick can take the costume off, Uncle Lou enters his room. Rick desperately tries to hide so that his real identity isn't exposed. Uncle Lou already suspects that Rick might be the Dragonfly superhero, which is why he came to check. As Uncle Lou searches the room, Rick cleverly avoids him again and again. Eventually, Uncle Lou gets tired and leaves, unable to find Rick. Moments later, Uncle Lou reaches the dining room, where Rick is already sitting, now fully changed into normal clothes. Uncle Lou notices a wound on Rick's hand and asks how he got injured. Rick quickly lies and says he got into a fight with another boy, but Uncle Lou instantly understands the truth. That wound was caused by the blade he threw at the Dragonfly superhero. Now Uncle Lou is certain Rick is the superhero. Rick quickly changes the topic and starts talking to Jill. Lawrence leaves, and soon Rick and Jill are alone together. They start talking about the Dragonfly superhero. Suddenly, Uncle Lou appears again, this time in his true supervillain form. He is now fully convinced that Rick is the superhero. Rick also realizes that the supervillain has come there to kill everyone. Trying to protect himself and Jill, Rick struggles, but he loses balance, falls, and passes out. During this chaos, Uncle Lou kills Rick's aunt. Later, Rick reaches the hospital, hoping to tell his uncle the truth, that his wife is gone. But the doctor warns Rick that his uncle must not receive any bad news, or his condition could become life-threatening. Unfortunately, another doctor carelessly tells Rick's uncle that his wife has died. Hearing this, Rick's uncle is completely heartbroken. The next day, Rick's aunt's funeral takes place. Rick's uncle arrives, devastated by the loss of his wife. He even says he wants to lie inside the coffin with her. But when he looks inside, the body isn't there. A few moments later, the coffin finally arrives. As soon as Rick's uncle opens it, Rick's aunt's body falls out of the coffin and rolls straight into the nearby fire. Her body is completely burned, shocking everyone present. After this, we see Rick at home, several days after his aunt's death. Rick is completely broken. He's depressed, quiet, and unable to focus on anything. Soon, Rick's uncle arrives with Trey. His uncle hands Rick that same ring again and reminds him of its true meaning. He tells Rick that he is a superhero, and superheroes don't give up. They exist to save people, no matter how hard things get. His uncle explains that the supervillain must be stopped because he plans to kill thousands of people. Rick is the only one who can face him. Rick admits that he wants to help people, but every time he tries to do something good, everything goes wrong. Just then, a news report appears on TV, announcing a huge city convention. Everyone realizes that this is the perfect place for the supervillain to strike. They all head to the convention. Uncle Lou is already there. Rick still doesn't know that Uncle Lou is the supervillain, so he directly asks him who the villain is. Uncle Lou lies and points toward a monk standing on stage, saying, "That's the supervillain." Believing him, Rick puts on his costume and starts beating the monk badly. Using this distraction, Uncle Lou escapes and reveals his true villain form. Now fully powered, Uncle Lou attacks Rick and drops the roof on him. Rick survives and throws the roof back up, but it crashes back down on him again, trapping him underneath. The supervillain then throws blades at Rick to finish him off. But at the last second, Jill jumps in front of Rick, saving the Dragonfly superhero because she has fallen in love with him. Seeing Jill badly injured fills Rick with rage. Rick carries Jill up to the roof, where he sees Uncle Lou activating his machine, draining the lives of innocent people. Using the machine, Rick brings Jill back to life. But Rick realizes that in just a few seconds, the supervillain will become immortal, a threat to the entire world. Rick charges forward despite the blades flying at him. Using all his power, Rick reaches Uncle Lou and blows up the machine along with the villain. Rick and Jill fall from the rooftop together. As they fall, Jill notices the ring on Rick's hand, the same ring Rick always wears. In that moment, she finally understands the truth. The Dragonfly superhero was Rick all along. Sometimes being a hero isn't about powers or costumes. It's about standing up when it matters most, even when everything inside you is broken. If this journey made you feel something, if it made you smile, laugh, or believe in heroes again, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next one.